I am a huge fan of trains. Now, last year, for my birthday, my good friend Gretchen agreed to go with me on a long cross-country trip by train. We started out in New York City, and we went all the way over to Los Angeles. Now, we stopped over in St. Louis one day because somebody owed Gretchen money and she wanted to collect on that debt, some kind of a gambling debt. I'm fairly certain that she cheated. I had some downtime, so I decided that I would go do some photography. And I love trains, so I decided I would go along the train track and see if I could take some pictures of trains. So I'm walking and I see a bridge, and the bridge is going over the train track. And I look up on the top of this bridge, and who do I see? I see my old friend Judith. She's standing there on top of the bridge next to a very large man who I don't know. And I figure I'll go over there and I'll say hi. I'm sure she'd be happy to see me. But just then I noticed that there is a train that is headed on the track. And the train is going to go under the bridge and then keep going. But then I noticed something else. On the track in front of the train, there are 5 workers. And there was like a wall. And the wall made it so that there was no way that the workers could have gotten off of the tracks before the train reached them. And the train was going at such a speed that it was also impossible for the train to slow down. And as far as I could tell, there was no way that these workers were going to survive. And I was horrified because I love trains, and I don't want to see the train kill somebody. That would kind of, ruin my enthusiasm for trains for the rest of my life. Not to mention, these 5 individuals would lose their lives. So I'm standing there just watching, kind of horrified, and then I look up and I see the large man toppling over the edge, and Judith is pushing him. And I watch, and she pushes him, and he falls off the edge, and he lands on a lever. And the lever is attached to one of those things that switches the tracks. So the train, instead of hitting the 5 workers, is diverted onto another track just in the nick of time. I sprint up to the bridge, and I get up there and I see Judith, and I say, "Hey, Judith, did you just push that man off the bridge, killing him?" And she says, "Yes. Yes, I did. But it was the right thing to do, because there was no other way for me to push the lever. I don't weigh enough to fall on the lever and cause it to turn. And there was also nothing around me that I could have thrown. The only way to divert the train to another track would have been to push that man. So that's what I did. I sacrificed 1 life, and I was able to save 5. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, yeah, I guess the reasoning makes sense. What she did brought about the best overall consequences. But something still seems wrong about it. It still seems like there's something wrong with treating somebody that way. It seems like there's something wrong with killing an innocent person who does not want to die, simply in order to maximize goodness of results. There's a German philosopher by the name of Immanuel Kant, and he believed that there were certain things that you just absolutely should not do. More specifically, he thought that there was a principle called the Categorical Imperative, and that principle could then derive all these other rules that would tell you what you absolutely should not do. Now, there's lots of different formulations of the Categorical Imperative, but I'm going to be looking at one that I think is especially useful for business ethics. And it goes like this. We should never act in such a way that we treat humanity, whether in ourselves or in others, as a means only, but always as an end in itself. Another way of phrasing that is treat humanity, whether in yourself or in someone else, never merely as a means, but always at the same time as an end in itself. There's lots of ways that we treat each other as a means. So imagine if I have a sandwich and you have money, and I want to sell you my sandwich for your money. I'm using you as a means of getting money, but you're also using me as a means of getting a sandwich. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that according to Kant, because Kant thought that there's nothing wrong with using somebody as a means. The problem is when you use them merely as a means, or only as a means. We can contrast the sandwich exchange for one where I deceive you into giving me money. So maybe what I do is I trick you, I pretend that I have a sandwich, and instead I just give you an empty bag and you give me money. Or I steal the money from you, right? In those cases, though, I'm not treating you as an end in yourself. What I'm doing is I'm seeing you merely as an obstacle in my way to the money. And when we reflect back on this case of pushing the large man onto the lever, what we can see is that violates this categorical imperative, because we're seeing that man not as some autonomous individual with hopes and dreams and desires. What we're seeing him as is just an object that we can use to push a lever. In other words, we're treating him merely as a means rather than as an end in himself. And so what Kant would say is, it doesn't matter how many lives you're saving by pushing the man off the bridge. You still shouldn't do it, because what you are doing is you're violating this absolute prohibition against using somebody merely as a means. Now let's return back to the story. There I am standing on top of the bridge talking to my friend Judith. Now just then Gretchen shows up. She's got her money and she says, "All right, Aaron, let's go. We can go back on the train now. We can continue our journey." But then we look down, and what we see is that there's another train that's going to come on the track. And we've diverted the track, remember, to the alternate track, and that's where the workers are working now. So what we need to do now is we need to run down there, and we need to pull the lever and move the train to the other track, saving the workers' lives. Gretchen isn't feeling it. She's not really enthusiastic about it, and she says, she's tired, but she's been roughing people up to get her money back all day, so she doesn't really want to go and help anybody, and she just doesn't really care. Judith and I, though, do care. So what we do is we run down the hill, we go down on this path, we run along the train tracks, we get to the lever, we pull it, and we save the individuals' lives. Gretchen didn't use the workers merely as a means. But morality doesn't just include making sure that you don't use somebody merely as a means. According to Kant, what you're also supposed to do is foster the ends of others. And that part of his theory can help us make sense of why Judith and I did something good by running down and saving these workers' lives, right? What we did was we acted on what's called an imperfect duty of beneficence. It's a duty to go and benefit others. Now, unlike utilitarianism or even consequentialism more broadly, we don't have a duty to maximize overall goodness of results. So the duty is not to make sure that we're saving the most lives possible. We have discretion, according to Kant, when it comes to how we exercise our duties of beneficence, our imperfect duties of beneficence. But you should do something, right? It's not enough simply to live your life and avoid using people merely as a means. You should also do something to foster their ends as well.